We are fortunate that today our next speaker is maybe someone that you could refer to when you say not all superheroes wear capes. She's a truly authentic leader, and her name is Yael Geffen. Yael is going to talk to us about the importance of authenticity, connection, and self-awareness. She is the CEO and shareholder of Sotheby's Realty. She grew up in this real estate dynasty, which was established by her grandmother, Ada. But prior to joining the family business officially in 2009, she acquired extensive skills in real estate, marketing, brand, and business building in the United States. She's a really accomplished public and motivational speaker, and her resume boasts hosting her own radio show between 2013 and 2017. She's a sought-after life and business strategy advisor and is the 2020 winner of the Standard Bank prestigious Top Woman in Property Award. She is also, very importantly, a mental health advocate and was chosen to represent South Africa at the World Leader Summit last year. Yael, welcome, and we are really excited to hear what you have to share with us today.
I'm unmuting. Thank you, Mandy. Lynette's presentation was a perfect introduction into mine, into how to find your self-awareness and how to use that to boost yourself into a position of authentic leadership. I just want to thank you all for coming here today. And I want this session to be quite interactive. So if you'd like to, when I invite you to write in the chat, this is about us learning, about ourselves, about us evolving, about us growing, and about leaving today with some key points that we can take into the future. But thank you, Saica, for having me today. It's lovely to be here again. Okay, so let's get started with this presentation. I am just going to go into my slide. Right, I hope you can all see that. It was New Year's Eve in 2009. And as one does on New Year's Eve, instead of thinking what you're going to change about the new year or how you can adjust your energy or what kind of taking stock or inventory you're going to do. No, you're on your social media and you're scrolling on your Facebook and your Instagram. And this is kind of what I saw, what you're looking at. The duck face, pout, the hashtag Blaze, we're in Bali, or hashtag Blaze, spending our family time, New Year's in Ibiza, so humbled to be here, blah, blah, blah. And I actually felt sick to my stomach because I hated what I was seeing. So as a normal person would do, I then on my Facebook feed posted this. Yes, it's amazing that I still have friends today, let alone work colleagues, let alone people in my life that want to spend time with me. My son actually took this photo. And then what I did was I added an ode on this photo in my Facebook. And I said, I am sad looking at Facebook. And I basically went on and said, I feel like everyone's duck pout, filtering, lighting, hashtag bless. It's almost like we've become homogenous. We're not individuals anymore. And where are the wrinkles? Where are the fat rolls? Is the authenticity? And it was at that point in time that I realized that I'm going to go to war with fake. And I'm going to prove that you can make it without faking it. Even if you're starting your career, even if you're an unbelievable business leader, and if you can find that authenticity quotient or your authentic power, that's really what it's about. So feel free to take pictures of my mad photo and bribe me with it later. So now I want to move on to my rhino story, as I call it. So there is a time and a place to build yourself up. And I want to share with you what happened to me. A few years ago, I was at the Dinner King Nature Reserve, just here in Pretoria. And I love nature. I love the game reserve. And I went on a game walk, which is where you go with the game ranger. There's normally one or two, one with a gun. and maybe a guide as well. And you're walking and you're tracking the animals, and it's a different thrill. You're kind of in the hub, you're in nature, you're no longer looking down from a fancy, well, a nice Land Rover looking down open air. This is a very different feeling. So there I am, and we're on this game walk, and the game range in front says, "Ah, look at this. There's black rhino track. Should we track it?" And I'm like, "Yes, let's track the black rhino." Note yourself, never track a black rhino. Okay, they're not supposed to be found on foot, but again, I had to learn for myself. So we now walking stealthily, and the game ranger gives us these signals. If I go like this, it means stop. If I go like that, it means back away. So now we're walking, and now we're going through this thick brush, and the next thing, this comes up, and we are scricking ourselves. And then so we start walking away, and what happened is we had walked into a black rhino, basically. He was 5 meters away. We startled him. The next thing, this big guy starts bolting, charging, not mock charge, charging. Now, the game ranger, who I have such admiration for, and his pants didn't change a color, which I was surprised, but he had to make himself bigger. So he stood there with his legs open. This rhino starts charging, and he takes his gun and he goes, this rhino was still coming. And he literally played chicken with the rhino. And at the very last second, I mean a meter, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to witness a death for my own selfishness of wanting to see a black rhino. At the very last second, the rhino turns. And this game ranger is shaking, and we were all white. Now, this is a perfect example of posturing, of puffery, of how to make yourself bigger in the wild. But we're no longer living in this world, are we? We're no longer living in the survival of the fittest. The soul has become important. Authentic power has become important. Vulnerability, transparency. It's no longer about that madman era, Donald Draper, that very sexy man, who is the advertising exec, and everything is about taking and capitalism and taking over and selfishness and greed. The world has changed. So posturing for this rhino story is 100% accurate. So now I want to go into what happens if we do posture in life. We create something within ourselves, I call it a COC, a crisis of confidence. Please look at the words, a crisis of confidence. And you'll see my lovely zucchinis. I have all shapes and sizes of these crises of confidence. And you never know when you're going to have one. You can have a COC this morning. You could have had one yesterday. And it's a nice, memorable phrase. Ladies, be careful. I can see those of you that are enjoying this a little too much, but at least it's memorable. And you'll realize we all have crises of confidence. Even the best celebrities in the world, even the presidents, maybe not Trump, but normal presidents do. So when we have these crises of confidence, it's important not to go into the space of puffery, boasting, trying to make yourself appear large. Why? Because you create insecurity leaks. And insecurity leaks are felt. They permeate. You can see them. You can almost smell them. You can feel them. And it actually makes you look small. The very idea of making yourself look big actually makes you minimal. So how do we do all of this? It's all very well for you to say, well, Yael, you've come on here and you've said we can't do puffery and we can't self-inflate. How do we do this? Well, self-promotion is great. And there's a big difference between self-promotion and self-inflation. So if you're marketing, if you are a newbie at your career, if you are new at Saica, if you're a leader at Saica and you want to get more credibility, self-promote. It's the nature of business. It's the exchange of, where we live in society. But self-inflation, So that's a little microscript about self-promotion is great, self-inflation we hate. So now, before we can promote ourselves, we need to find our zone of greatness, because you will never know how to be authentic and communicate that without knowing your zone of greatness. How do you get to know your zone of greatness? You've got to become self-aware. Now, I mean, that's a real big buzzword, self-awareness, really. And everyone is trying to figure out, how do I become self-aware? And people are saying, oh, I'm working on myself. I'm doing so much personal development. But I want to make this simple for you. To find your zone of greatness, you need to define, who are you? Now, I don't know if you know this scene from Alice in Wonderland, but if you do, please feel free to write in the chat and write questions that you have that you'd like me to answer later. You can oppose what I'm saying. I invite it. I would love to get into discussion with you. But this caterpillar here sits on the mushroom and he's smoking his pipe and he looks at Alice and he says, who are you? Now, if you can't answer the question of who you are, how will you ever become a butterfly? I would like you to post in the chat now, because we're here to learn, we're here to work, we're here to evolve. Who are you? Now, I don't mean your name. I don't mean what you do for a living. I don't mean who you are in relation to others, a mother, a wife. Who are you? What is your zone of greatness? What is your essence? Write in the chat. So now your zone of greatness is the combination of the three. What is your unique offering? Okay. What does the world need as the next step? And where your unique offering and where what the world needs overlaps, that's your zone of greatness. Now, with me, I've always been a very real person and quite authentic. It's come to me naturally. However, when I took over as CEO of Lugeff and Sotheby's International Realty, there was just me and all these men, all these other real estate leaders, which is quite ironic since Pam Golding and Aida Geffen were the first ladies of real estate. So it's taken a turn. But instead of going with my authentic self, my feminine self, trying to overcompensate by becoming a little bit more masculine. You know, you've seen them, those finance ladies and banking ladies, and maybe there's some of you here at Saica that are so masculine that you think, she could pee standing up. I emulated that for a little bit, and I can tell you it didn't work for me. It wasn't me. It wasn't my zone of greatness. And I decided to stop being what I thought everyone else wanted me to be and be the person that I am, because this is why I'm in this position. This is my wealth of sharing, of being authentic, of being genuine. And that's me at my own personal best. So you want to strive to be the best version of yourself. And that's not by emulating someone else. That's by connecting to who you are. Who are you? Your zone of greatness. So now you might say, well, I don't know what my unique offering is. I don't know what my gift is yet. Well, there are ways to find out. There are lots and lots of online personality tests, which are free. So there's one called the 16 personalities. Make notes if you like. There is the Clifton Gallup Strengths Finder, the Clifton Strengths Finder. There's all sorts of tests online. There's your Ikigai, which is the Japanese test for your reason for being. Start doing these. Start doing these and get to know who you are, because until you know who you are, you will never be able to communicate it or sell whatever product or service that you're wanting to sell. You will not be seen in the world until you can see yourself. Another great tool is to ask family, friends, and colleagues. And this might feel awkward for you, but there's a great exercise called the 5x5 exercise, where you ask 5 people in your life to write 5 things of how they would describe you. And you'll see where there's overlap, that's part of your unique offering. So when I did it with my family, my child, I did it with work colleagues, I did it with friends, a lot of them said authenticity, authenticity, some of them said other things which were very funny, but and leadership and strong was another one. Intelligent, yeah, I mean, you can see, you know, I'm just kidding. But yes, definitely powerful and authentic was definitely on mine. So you get to see your world through other eyes, the way they see you. So that's a good one. And also it helps you engage with clients if you're able to do that. Then look at celebrities, look at their qualities that you admire. Think of your favorite celebrities and write that down. And lastly, do an exercise. What makes you remarkable? Now, I struggled when I did this exercise. I couldn't think what it was. I was actually doing a course, and Richard Mulholland said to me, what's going on? And I said to the group, I'm struggling with this question. I don't know what makes me remarkable. And he said to me, Yael, if you don't know what makes you remarkable, no one else will. And that's when the went off. And if you can't say what makes you remarkable, not only will you never inside feel remarkable, but no one else will be able to share that beautiful zone of greatness with you. So I hope that helps. And feel free to write in the chat which exercise resonates with you, which you think you're going to try. Have you ever done an online personality test? Have you ever benefited from it? Would love to hear from you. So this is a place in which you can find your authentic power. I came across a book. It's an old book, actually, this weekend. It's called The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. And I've been told about this book a lot, but it is very special. And I suggest getting a copy because it does talk about how that era of only the fittest will survive is over, and how we are in this new era of authentic power, because that's real power. It's not puffery. It's not faking it. It's taking a stand from a place inside your zone of greatness. So I'd recommend that book. Right. The next fun thing to do. Okay. Now you've got your zone of greatness. You've established your unique offering. You've seen where you belong in the world and where the world needs you. Okay. Now you want to tell the world who you are, because now you know who you are, right? Okay. So social media is fantastic for telling people who you are, and everyone is doing it. And a lot of people are doing it wrong. Why? Because they're just copying what they see, okay? They're just copying what they see. So what are they seeing? Okay. I look at my social media from time to time, and I do something called an MBA, a My Bullshit Audit. I hope you don't take offense at me swearing, but I think it's important that we take note of your MBA. And what I look at is how I describe myself, and I look at how other people describe themselves. So we've got, and it's funny because I actually met this guy on Bumble now, but he calls himself an agitator. And I actually took him to task. You know, on your LinkedIn profile, you have your name and then who you are. And it says agitator, And I thought to myself, agitator, I've never heard such a BS description. What is an agitator? I was married. I agitated on a daily basis. You know, if you're a parent, you agitate your child. What is an agitator? I can't understand what that means. Expand on what that means. Or are you trying to sound so big and so puffed up and so postured because you don't want to create a space, the way you present yourself to others, where not only you cringe, but they cringe. And you all know what I'm talking about, those cringe-worthy moments where you're like, ooh, they didn't really say that. Or, ooh, people love schadenfreude. They love to take pleasure in other people's pain. Lynette spoke about that earlier. Schadenfreude is actually a German phrase. So be careful how you posture yourself. Remember, self-inflation we hate, self-promotion is great. Look at also other descriptions like 7 times entrepreneur. That's like saying you're 7 times human. An entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. If you say 7 times entrepreneur, to me, I think, okay, well, you've started and closed 7 businesses. Do you see? It makes you look small. The insecurity leaks. Global keynote speaker. That's the other one. Now, Simon Sinek or Anthony Robbins. I mean, if you've had a Zoom call with a colleague in Prague, you're not a global keynote speaker. You're a speaker. It's just a speaker. If you are a global keynote speaker, own it. Author, my favorite one, author. Everyone's an author because they've written a book. Now, if everyone is an author because they've written a book, what is Jeffrey Archer? And this is what I'm saying. Start looking at the way you present yourself to the world. Barley's story, I love this one. You know, if you've ever seen those people, well, let me actually pin it down further to something that happened to me. You know, Lynette asked earlier, how are you? How are you feeling? You know, how are you well? And I was at my endocrinologist and I saw someone, quite a prolific figure in South Africa, very educated and lots of admiration, and just he's a real inspiration. And I saw him there and I was like, hey, how are you? And he went, I am so well. I am so well. And then you look at this person with a smile and you go, great, that's so amazing. But you're actually thinking inside, who do you think you are to be so well? I know that sounds terrible, but it's the same when you see #blessed, or, you know, I won the top woman in property for 2020, and all the other winners in the category, I cannot tell you, I must have been like one of 3 who didn't say, I'm truly humbled to be here and what a privilege. The reality is, if you are humble, you're not going to say, I'm truly humbled. And it makes you small. So these are just insights, okay? The false modesty, the virtue signaling, stay away from that, because that creates those inauthentic leaks and you look small. So remember, you want to self-promote. But now let's go to examples, because you're thinking, okay, all right, this sounds cool, but what do I do? So let's look at some real live examples. Simon Sinek, okay? What I love about Simon Sinek is he says he also doesn't believe in faking it till you make it, like me and Sam. And he says he believes in improvisation. You can improvise, but that doesn't mean you're fake. Now, as a leader, you want to display leadership qualities. You want to be taken in by people. You want people to trust you, to like you, because like Lynette said, the only people we like doing business with are those we trust and like, or the people that you want to promote. You know, you want to like them. You want to be liked by your employee. You know, you don't want to be that painful person. But improvisation is very different to fake. Because in improvisation, you feel you have the ability to do it and you'll figure out the rest. Fake means you're not able to do it. And if you do this fake it till you make it strategy, you will have the slight chance or big chance of under-delivering. So you never want to set yourself up for something and under-deliver. You want to under-promise and over-deliver. So look at Simon Sinek, how he describes himself. He's an optimist and an author at Simon Sinek. Now, he is an author because he's a worldwide author with Start With Your Why, Start With Why book. So, but look how simple the way he brings himself across. Margaret Hirsch is a very good one, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Margaret Hirsch or are following her. Margaret Hirsch is amazing. I mean, she's won so many awards, international awards, and she does so much philanthropy and Mrs. South Africa. She's constantly doing stuff, running around the country. But this is her LinkedIn profile. Margaret Hirsch, Executive Director at Hirsch's Home Stores. Now, you might argue she's a brand. She's created a brand. How do I do this if I'm not a brand? Well, I'll get to that now. Now, this man can say he's the #1 New York Times bestselling author, life and business strategist, philanthropist, entrepreneur. Unleash the power within. Oh, there's Tony Robbins, but that is who he is. That's his authentic self. He's a big, bold character. And when he does, it's not coming from a place of inauthenticity. It's him. So he can pull this off. Richard Branson. Now, if we talk about authentic leaders, him and Arianna Huffington, I love them. And if you don't follow her, definitely follow her. She wrote Thrive, and she brought sleep, the sleep revolution, back to the workplace. But Richard Branson describes himself as the founder at Virgin Group. Now, he could write a million things, and these are all the official pages, eh? So, founder of the Virgin Group, which has gone on to grow successful businesses in sectors including mobile, blah, 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 blah. Virgin is the leading. Do you see how accurate this is? There's no puffery. It's just him. Now, again, bringing you back to, well, what if I'm Amy so-and-so? Okay, so I found this profile on LinkedIn and I loved it. And that's why I'm sharing it with you, because it's authentic. It says who she is. So her name is Helga Barkhazen. I don't even know if she's on this call today. It might be interesting. Helga, if you're here, write in the chat. But she's an expecting mom, executive director, a speaker, advocate for diversity and inclusion, lover of operations, animals, nature, the color green, and fine music. And she's got a lovely pic, and she's got a Slay International, which is obviously a company. And I looked at this and I thought, I would like to get to know this person. She sounds interesting. She has color. She's not saying 7 times entrepreneur, global speaker. She's simplifying it and she's being authentic. So you want to be the person that people want to root for to succeed. You don't want to be the one that they take delight in watching fail. And that's my quote. Because that term, Schadenfreude, if you look at Trump, Donald Trump, okay, you might love him, you might hate him. He is a fantastic comic relief. But if you look at his downfall and how people were taking thrill at how stupid he was coming across, it's because people didn't want him to succeed. If you ever have a bloops or a slip up, you want people to rally around you and say, oh, we know her, she's amazing, That's what you really want. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that taught you how to lead with authenticity from a place of self-awareness, because if you don't know who you are, no one else will. And these are my final parting thoughts with you, okay? Your to-do list. You find your ZOG. ZOG is your zone of greatness, okay? You find out what your AP is, your authentic power. I used to call it your authenticity quotient, but now I'm moving into authentic power, okay? You get yourself an NBF, not a new best friend, a no bullshit friend. Now, I've got a few of these, and when I'm looking and tailoring and seeing if I'm tailoring a talk or I'm tailoring a business proposal for my company or I'm putting a new video together, I have these NBS, my no bullshit friends, and I say to them, and no, yeah, you got to take that out. That's rubbish. And I'll give you an example. On my LinkedIn profile, I had one of my, in your about section, and I put activist. Now, here's the thing. I'm passionate about issues like I'm strongly against gender-based violence. I support women and men against children, child abuse. I support a lot of initiatives. I'm strong. I'm an active citizen. Am I an activist? No. Nelson Mandela was an activist. For me to call myself an activist gives me insecurity leaks. So I could say passionate about issues like this and that. Do you see what I'm saying? To reframe it, okay? So these no bullshit friends will help you do that. Together, you're going to do your MBA, My Bullshit Audit. I hope I haven't offended you with my swearing. And if I have, you can let me know. But I'm authentic, and this is who I am, and this is how I get it across. And then it's okay to have a cock sometimes. Your crisis of confidence, you are going to experience it. People experience it daily, sometimes a few times a day. Sometimes the top speakers in the world experience it, the top presidents. Everyone experiences a cock sometimes. And I hope that how I've framed today's presentation with sharing about how to become self-aware by doing all those tests, by really going introspective and going inside. We want to build ourselves from inside out. And too many people are going outside in. So know who you are, and then you can celebrate it with the world authentically, and then you will become an authentic leader. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Yael. I think you did everyone's homework there for them, because there weren't just 2 points, there were 5 to take home with you. So thank you so much. Those are really practical tips, I think, to get around the yucky self-building and self-inflammation rather than just self-promotion. So thank you so much.